Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, have you ever really stopped to think about what it takes to get an entire nation to chase after a single, almost impossible goal? Well, today we're going to dive into one of the most exciting moments of the 20th century, the race to the moon. We'll be looking at how a technological shock, a real surprise, kicked off this incredible national mission. It's a perfect case study for our AMC theme, savoir, creation, innovation. Knowledge, creation, and innovation. And right at the heart of this whole epic story, you've got this one man, President John F. Kennedy. See, in the middle of the Cold War, he really got that space wasn't just about launching rockets. Nope. It was the ultimate stage for a global showdown of ideas, of influence, and of course, of power. We choose to go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard. Wow, those words from 1962, they're so much more than just a famous quote, right? They are a full-on declaration of intent. This is our starting point, our intellectual hook, because it perfectly captures the ambition, the sheer audacity of an era and a president who wasn't afraid to dream big. So that brings us to our big question for today. How exactly did Kennedy manage to turn this high-stakes tech race into a defining moment for American identity? This question links directly to our AMC axis, Science et Technique, Promesses et Défis, which is all about the promises and challenges of science and technology. We're going to unpack how a scientific dream was basically transformed into a national mission. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the Sputnik shock that started it all. Then, we're going to decode Kennedy's really powerful response. After that, we'll get into the incredible challenges they had to overcome. And finally, we'll connect it all to the new space race that's happening right now, in our time. All right, let's get started. Our story doesn't begin on Earth. It actually begins way out in the cold silence of space with this simple little beeping signal that sent absolute shockwaves across the United States. Just take a look at this timeline. It really tells a story, doesn't it? It's one Soviet success after another. First, you have Sputnik, just a little metal ball orbiting the Earth. But then you have Yuri Gagarin, the first human being to ever see our planet from space. For the United States, the pressure was just immense. The whole world was watching, and it looked like America was seriously falling behind. Sputnik wasn't just another news story. It was a massive cultural event. A whopping 95% of Americans knew about it. Can you imagine that? One single event that basically everyone in the country was talking about. You just couldn't escape it. But, and this is a big but, here's the twist. Even though pretty much everyone knew about Sputnik, a surprising 40% of people, well, they just weren't that worried about it. And this created a huge political problem. How do you get a whole country to invest in a race that almost half of them don't even think is that important? So this slide really shows you two completely different ways of seeing the same event. For most people, Sputnik was just cool. It was a scientific wonder, a new star in the sky. But if you were in Washington, D.C., in the government, you saw it as a huge red flag. It was a terrifying reminder that the same rocket that could put a satellite in orbit could also deliver a nuclear bomb. Someone needed to bridge that massive gap between public wonder and political fear. So, what did Kennedy's administration do about this? How did they plan to get an entire nation behind a mission that seemed, frankly, impossible? And, to a lot of people, not even necessary. Well, Kennedy's real genius was that he didn't try to sell a science project. He sold a story. He tapped into this incredibly powerful American idea of the new frontier. And just like that, he transformed the cold, dark, empty void of space into the next great American adventure, a modern-day version of that pioneering spirit that has always been part of the nation's identity. Think about it. With this one simple line, Kennedy basically built a bridge from America's past to its future. He connected the old pioneers in their covered wagons heading west to the brand new rocket ships heading for the stars. This wasn't just about beating the Soviets anymore. It was about America fulfilling its destiny. Okay, now let's really dig into the language here. We're going to analyze the rhetorical tools Kennedy used to persuade the nation. And this is a really crucial skill for your AMC analysis, understanding how words can be used to build entire worlds and inspire millions of people. Just listen to the rhythm and the power in these words. He's not trying to downplay the challenge. He's leaning right into it. He's taking the biggest obstacle, the fact that this is incredibly, terrifyingly difficult, and he's turning it into the very reason they have to do it. It's brilliant. So you see what he's doing here? Kennedy isn't just announcing a policy. He's crafting a powerful narrative, a new chapter in the American story. He uses words like our to make everyone feel like they're part of this grand adventure, a story where every single citizen had a role to play. But of course, a dream this big came with a truly staggering price tag. The cost was, well, astronomical. And Kennedy had to convince both politicians and the American public that it was a price worth paying. Just let that number sink in for a second. $5.4 billion. In today's money, that's more than $50 billion. That is a mind-boggling amount of money, and it meant that other important national projects would have to take a back seat. So how on earth do you make a number that huge feel small and manageable? Well, you perform a little bit of communication magic. The administration broke it down and told everyone it would only cost about 50 cents a week for every American. And just like that, the impossible started to seem affordable. And here it is, the knockout punch. Kennedy actually compares the cost of reaching for the moon to what Americans were already spending on cigarettes and cigars. It was a clever, maybe even a little cheeky, way to frame the space program not as some wild expense, but as a smart, reasonable investment in the nation's future. So, what's the legacy of all this? The race to the moon might have ended back in 1969, but the story of space exploration was really just getting started. And believe it or not, its next big chapter is being written as we speak. This table makes it super clear how much the game has changed. That old two-sided race for political points is over. Today, it's a much more crowded field. You have multiple nations and even private companies like SpaceX, all competing, but also collaborating for science, for business, and for the pure excitement of discovery. And Kennedy's legacy is absolutely alive and well in NASA's new Artemis program. The goal is to return humans to the moon, including the first woman and the first person of color. But this time, it isn't a solo mission. It's a global effort, built on partnerships with other countries and powered by innovation from the private sector. And that brings us right back around, full circle, to our AMC axis. With this whole new group of players and a totally new set of rules, what are the new promises and, of course, the new challenges of this modern frontier? What will it mean for your generation to reach for the stars? So in the end, maybe Kennedy's greatest achievement wasn't just getting a man on the moon. It was his incredible ability to take a moment of national fear and turn it into a shared dream. A dream that still inspires us to look up at the sky and wonder, what's next?